I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. You're here with me. We're talking. We do this every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Love for you to join us live. You can't do that. We record it for you. You can watch it from the website. You can watch it from YouTube. You got options. I want to talk to you a little bit today about the Pope, Pope Francis. He made a statement recently that I found was very interesting for a pope to make. He said, a my way or the highway faith is heretical. Do you know what he's talking about? Talking about me. Might be talking about you. The Bible says there's only one way to God, and that's through the Lord Jesus Christ. By faith, by grace, through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast. And that's my way or the highway, faith. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about people like that said, you're not going to get to heaven unless you're saved. You're not going to get to heaven unless you're a Muslim. You're not going to get to heaven unless you're, whatever it is. And he called on Catholics to adopt what he referred to as, quote, a healthy realism in the approach to their faith, decrying the whole idea of rigid idealism, calling these people heretics. At a Mass on Thursday of this past week, June 9th, 2016, Pope Francis told congregants at the chapel of the Vatican Guest House to try their best to seek reconciliation with others rather than pushing strict rules and a take-it-or-leave-it style of evangelism. He said, many times you can't reach perfection, but at least you can do what you can, and that is come to an agreement. He appealed to the example given by Jesus that Francis said adopted a healthy realism. According to him, he said, quote, it's not Catholic to say this or nothing. This is heretical. I read that and I thought to myself, I'm not a Catholic. But I thought, has the Pope ever read the Catholic Catechism? Let me quote it to you. Through the liturgy, that is literally the public work or the service in the name of or on behalf of the people, through the liturgy, Christ, our Redeemer and High Priest, continues the work of redemption in, with, and through his church. What is his church? Well, this comes from the Catholic Catechism. According to the Catholic Catechism, his church is the Roman Catholic Church. He continues his work of redemption in, with, and through only his church. The Catechism goes on to describe what it is in that church, and it is the celebration of the Catholic Mass. A celebration, it says, of the Christian mystery. Now, this is right from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the last one printed, which is 1994. According to Roman Catholic doctrine, only ordained priests, ordained by the Roman Catholic Church, may offer this liturgy, this sacrifice of the Mass. So how are Baptists and others considered religious idealists heretics because they are preaching and teaching that only through the gospel of Christ is a person saved, when this Pope and his church do the very same thing in declaring that salvation is available only through this church and this mystical celebration. He must not have read the whole passage. Or maybe he's getting older and he's forgotten his training. Oh, wait a minute. He's a liberal. Liberals love this stuff. They play with the words, the concepts, to further their goals. Liberals are not literalists like me, except where their liberalism is concerned. This Pope, more than any other Pope, has broken down barriers and seemingly embraced all sorts of loving and caring attitudes and behaviors and people. For what? To water down Catholicism and make it acceptable to more people? No. The one thing a Roman Catholic will never do is change the Mass. They'll play with all sorts of things, but the Mass is the central feature and it never changes. Why? Because it is the only source of salvation. The Roman Catholic Church teaches something called baptismal regeneration. You have to be baptized into that church if you want to get to heaven. Little babies are submitted to this ceremonially. They don't actually get dunked, but they get water slapped on them. They don't know what they're doing. And then later on at 10 or 11, whatever it is, they go through what's called confirmation. They're confirming that commitment which was made for them in baptism. And now they're members of the Catholic Church. You're not going to go to heaven if that doesn't happen. And then you have to partake of the elements, because those elements are literally the body and blood of Christ. That body which is broken for you, and that blood which is spilled, spread, shed, and you consume, linking mystically with all of that. There Jesus is still hanging on a cross. His work is not finished. The church is finishing that work every day. And if you're a Baptist when you die, or something other than a Catholic, and somehow you wind up in heaven, they got an answer for that too. They say, well, it's because you would have been a Catholic had you known. They got an answer for everything. So the next time somebody goes after you because you think the gospel is the power of God unto salvation and nothing else, and that is narrow and bigoted and you can't, call the Pope. He believes the same thing. Not making any kind of a comparison. We're running all the way to the other side of the street because on June 6th, just this past week, a group from the Satanic Temple in Los Angeles, using GPS technology, set out to construct a giant pentagram around the city of Lancaster, California, it's a suburb of LA. Because it's Lancaster which is the home to a satanic temple. And the goal was to raise awareness for Satanism. And June 6th, it was chosen because it corresponds very closely to 666. June, the 6th month, 6th day, 2016. Mark of the Beast from the book of Revelation. Well, if that's the mark of the beast, and they know that, it's all about Satan, and he loses. This isn't a positive thing for him. They don't care. It's all about media attention. You know the pentagram is a star with 5 points, right? Each of these points is located in such a way as to encompass the city of Lancaster. And so the members of this temple, this satanic temple, are seeking to stand, they say, quote, stand with the good people of the city of Lancaster in their joint struggle for the constitutional right to individual liberty. Also the freedom of expression and the separation of church and state in your community. The Satanists know a lot of people are going to be upset about this, but they remind the good folks of Lancaster that we are no longer a Christian nation, and we haven't been one for a very long time. These folks see an opportunity to promote their belief system and win converts in what they call the free marketplace of ideas. Satanism, witchcraft, paganism, Wicca are all among the fastest growing religions in America, along with Islam. Christianity, specifically evangelical Christianity, is declining faster than most people realize. The reality is, as biblical Christianity is waning, millions of Americans are turning to alternative belief systems. Many of these are simply feeling-oriented systems. But in our society today, if I feel close to God, who are you to say I'm not? In 1950s America, Christian crosses were routinely featured upon large office buildings, including the Empire State Building in New York City. Special occasions of one sort or another. Those buildings still feature light shows of one thing or another. Just recently was a huge replica of the face of Kali, the Hindu god, not unlike Satan, with his large red tongue hanging down. The image was over 100 feet high on this building. It may have been the Empire State. And just this year, a pagan group wanted to erect a replica of the 50-foot arch that stood at the entrance to the Temple of Baal in Syria. They wanted to do that in downtown New York and in all the major cities. Michael Snyder, who's the author of the piece that I'm using here, says God has created us, they say, with a desire to reach out to Him, even if we don't know who He is or how He desires to be worshipped. He says we're moving into a time when our world will be shaken like never before, and global events are going to seem like they are spinning out of control. Millions of people are going to be searching for answers, and the number one topic that they're going to be interested in is Bible prophecy. They're going to want us to show how in the Bible these things are talked about and why our planet has gone completely nuts. Now, inquiring minds want to know, how does he know that's the way people are going to think? I don't know. But the author goes on to list a growing number of natural disasters, global upheavals to prove his point. In fact, the article is 80% of that. I cut all that out because it's nonsense. The Bible doesn't say anything like this. The Bible presents a picture of a global society glad that Christians are gone. The Great Tribulation is a time of chaos and destruction, such as the world has not seen since the days of Noah's flood. The Great Tribulation is not tied to the rapture of the church. The rapture of the church is imminent, could have happened in the days of the apostles. We have no idea what the actual time frames are. But the people on this earth are not pictured during the Great Tribulation reading a Bible trying to figure out where they went wrong. The picture is one of absolute relief that those Bible thumpers are out of here. Now, it's true the weather and the Earth's crust have been very active of late. But do we really believe people will be making serious moral corrections because a couple of volcanoes exploded? That's just pure Pelagianism. That's a 75-cent word. Pelagianism is a heresy. It was judged that way 2,000 years ago. Pelagius believed that human beings had everything they need to understand God and to come to Christ and to be saved. If they wanted to, they could do it. And if they didn't do it, it's because they didn't want to. It's heresy. The truth of mankind is he doesn't care. The preachers relying on scare tactics don't get it. Of course, they do have books to sell, and this guy has one of his own. Desire to get more people to come into their churches is another way to raise your salary and your prestige. But here are the Satanists and the atheists who parade their lack of objective morality in the public square while erecting all sorts of monuments and testimonies to the gods of self. The tower in major cities of the world was one such effort. Occasionally we run across a black mass. Routinely there are public outrages against any and all efforts to criticize sinful behaviors. We've got statues of the devil himself being raised and set up on public property. And the cry is all the same. I'm my own God. I don't need something else. Now we have the atheists in Los Angeles, California, who are placing a symbol at 5 different places around the city of Lancaster to form a giant pentagram. Why? Well, as they say, because America is not a Christian nation anymore, if it ever was. And these people are not alone. Did you watch some of the news thing? They were talking about a big tunnel over in Switzerland, the Gotthard Base Tunnel. Well, they opened that thing. It's the longest, deepest railroad tunnel in the world. It took 17 years to build. It's 35 miles long. It's 2,000 meters deep in places, and they had a great ceremony to inaugurate this. The ceremony consisted of 2 parts, and in both parts, the central figure was a goat man that was eerily reminiscent of Baphomet. Heard of Baphomet? Demonic deity of the old days. A BBC article about the giant statue that was unveiled in Detroit last year of Baphomet said the best known modern image of Baphomet was drawn in 1856 by French occultist Eliphas Levi, or Levy, in his book Transcendental Magic, Its Doctrines and Ritual. He envisioned a winged hermaphrodite with a torch between his horns and a pentagram on his forehead. His arms bore the Latin words salve, separate, and coagula, joined together. The powers of binding and loosing usurped from our God. Levi's drawings was the inspiration for the Satanic Temple's new monument. It contains all these binary opposites, above, below, part animal, part human, male, female. It embodies opposites and celebrates contrasts as opposed to harmony. In modern times, Baphomet is well understood to represent Satan, or the human embodiment of Satan. That's why the fact that this goat man was the central figure of the opening ceremony, making it so deeply disturbing. The first part of the ceremony was held underground. The goat man died, was resurrected, and then worshipped during this portion of the performance, all acted out in dance and whatever. The performance began with a cohort of miners dressed in orange jumpsuits marching like zombies toward the tunnel's entrance. The miners were then seemingly sacrificed to the tunnel and emerged as veiled spirits, represented by dancers in underwear with white wedding veils, and an actor dressed as a goat sprung out and began ritualistically consuming and mating with the veiled dancers. During this segment, a headshot of the actor dressed as a goat was displayed on the video screen with a black and red backdrop and an absorbing fire lofting around his face while 3 Egyptian scarabs floated in front of the screen. You see what's going on here? This is entertainment at the opening of a tunnel. The symbolism is unmistakable.